on the proposed application from Mungo Homes to disturb land to facilitate construction of 65 single-family homes as well as associated roads and associated infrastructure. This proposed project tonight will be referred to as Seewee Landing. My name is Derek Stanley, and I am the Public Participation Coordinator in the Bureau of Water and part of the Community Engagement Team within the South Carolina Department of Environmental Services. Tonight, I am serving as a facilitator and later the hearing officer for this meeting. On behalf of the South Carolina Department of Environmental Services, I welcome you and thank you for taking the time to come here this evening virtually. Excellent. Formerly part of DHEC, or the Department of Health and Environmental Control, South Carolina DES is a South Carolina state cabinet agency established by state law on July 1st, 2024, with specific roles and responsibilities for overseeing the protection and preservation of South Carolina's environmental and natural resources. South Carolina Department of Environmental Services is comprised of 5 environmental bureaus: the Bureau of Air Quality, the Bureau of Land and Waste Management, the Bureau of Coastal Management, the Bureau of Water, and we have statewide locations with our Bureau of Regional and Laboratory Services. Tonight, you will be hearing from staff of our Bureau of Water and our Bureau of Coastal Management, and we have additional staff in supporting roles for our virtual platform from our communications team and our Charleston Regional Office. As the state's environmental regulatory agency and part of the state's emergency response network, we appreciate your understanding of our decision to hold this meeting and hearing virtually. In light of the tropical weather forecast in an effort to keep everyone safe, while also continuing to provide an opportunity for meaningful community engagement. I encourage you to stay safe and stay informed of Tropical Storm Imelda, Hurricane Umberto, and other threats by following the South Carolina Emergency Management Division and South Carolina Department of Environmental Services online via social media platforms and our websites. Again, tonight is an opportunity for our team to share information, but more importantly, to hear from you. Our Coastal Stormwater Permitting Program will give a presentation on the Seewee Landing Project stormwater permit application that South Carolina Department of Environmental Services has received. And then we will have time for some questions and answers before convening our formal public hearing where oral comments will be formally recorded. These public meetings and public hearings are very important to our permitting process and are an opportunity to hear from you. There will be no permit decision made tonight, as your questions and comments will be part of our ongoing review. I encourage you, if you have not already done so, to sign in using the QR code on the screen, where you can share if you would like to make a comment in the public hearing and note your preferred way to receive a notice of decision. Again, tonight we'll begin with a public meeting with the opportunity for conversation, questions, and answers. And then we'll convene a public hearing, which is a formal proceeding where time comments will be received. If you have additional questions, our staff will be happy to connect with you after the public hearing adjourns. How to provide comments. Tonight is just one way that you can share a comment related to this proposed project and permit application. Comments can be submitted until Thursday, October 9th, 2025 by U.S. mail, email, and our online e-permitting portal. We will share how to use this portal or to share comments later tonight. South Carolina Department of Environmental Services National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, or NPDES, permitting process will be provided tonight by Shannon Hicks, Jill Rothenberg, and George Cox. Again, please hold any questions you may have during the presentation until the time for discussion. I will now call on Shannon Hicks to begin the presentation.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Shannon Hicks. I manage Bureau of Water's Coastal Zone Consistency section, and I'm going to give you a presentation overview and give you an overview of the state stormwater program. So tonight we're going to talk about the scope of reviewing authorities for the state stormwater management and sediment control program. We're also going to hear from Jill Rothenberg with Bureau of Coastal Management Coastal Zone Consistency Program, who will highlight the scope of the reviewing authorities for the Coastal Zone Consistency Program. Next, George Cox, who's the project manager for coastal stormwater permitting, will give some application details or the application details of the proposed Seewee Landing project, and then we'll share some next steps in this process. So for the scope of state stormwater permits, the stormwater permits required for any land disturbing activities that include 1 acre or more of land disturbance. So the scope of construction activities not only is the land that's being graded and filled, it's equipment storage areas and things of that nature. Applicants must hire a professional engineer to develop what's called a stormwater pollution prevention plan to control stormwater discharges during construction activities and handle them post-construction activities according to state regulations in a manner that meets our state regulatory requirements. The contractor must follow this stormwater pollution prevention plan at the direction of the owner the entire project from start to finish to remain in compliance. And modifications, should those come in, are done in concert with the owner and the professional engineer of record, should they be major in nature. For state stormwater permits, the main things that we're looking at are water quality control during construction. Applicants must demonstrate how state requirements for water quantity control are addressed as well for post-construction activities. So we're looking at the rate of stormwater runoff upon completion of the development. We're also looking at the quality of stormwater runoff post-construction. We have regulatory requirements to address that as well. What our state stormwater construction permits don't cover include local zoning and land use of the site. Those are handled at the local level. Also, county ordinances, those are administered by the counties. We don't have any authority in that. Now, they may have very similar or the same requirements as ours. Typically, the state standards are the baseline standards, and then the local governments go beyond the state standards with their requirements. And lastly, we, in the stormwater construction permitting section, do not handle the permitting and design of septic systems. Now I'm going to hand it off to Jill Rothenberg, who's going to speak about the scope of reviewing authorities for the Coastal Zone Consistency Program.
Thank you, Shannon. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jill Rothenberg. I am the Coastal Zone Consistency Project Manager for this proposed project. The South Carolina Coastal Program was established with the goals of protecting the state's coastal resources through, excuse me one moment. The South Carolina Coastal Program was established with the goals of protecting the state's coastal resources through the implementation of our regulatory programs while inviting community and technical assistance, public participation and outreach through events like today, additionally to develop network partnership with local, federal, and other state agencies, as well as the academic communities. As previously mentioned, projects within the 8 coastal counties that require certain state or federal permits, direct federal activities, or are federally funded require coastal zone consistency certification. Projects are reviewed for consistency with policies of the Coastal Zone Management Program. Specifically for this proposed project, we use guidelines for evaluation of all projects, activity-specific policies such as residential development, transportation, roads and highways, stormwater management, wet ponds, coastal resource-related policies when applicable, such as areas of special resource significance, such as wetlands. This project has a nationwide permit for jurisdictional wetland impacts. Geographical areas of particular concern, which would be threatened or endangered species habitats and historic and archaeological resources. I will now hand it over to the Bureau of Water Stormwater Engineer, George Cox, for application details.
Thank you, Jill. So I'm going to go over the details for this application, and all of these details are proposed. So I may not mention that as I go through it, but just want to point that out. Everything is still under review, and this is all proposed. So they're proposing single-family residential development on a 48.9 acre site. The application does include the roadway utilities, stormwater management infrastructure to support the development. Here's the location of the site. This is Seewee Road, Highway 17. Let's see, Highway 17's up here, and then this Maxville Road circles around the site. You can see the site has an irregular shape, and we'll explain why it looks that way here in a minute. And here's a little bit more zoomed in view of the site. The proposal includes 65 single-family residential lots. Again, the roadway utility and stormwater management infrastructure. The proposal is for 39.6 acres of land disturbance, which would include 0.4 acres of impacts of jurisdictional wetland, but there will be no impacts on non-jurisdictional wetlands. Stormwater runoff generated by the site ultimately routes to Seewee Bay or the intercoastal waterway. Stormwater runoff during construction is proposed to be managed by a construction entrance, sediment basins, silt fence, inlet protection, and in addition to appropriate placement of portable toilets and waste receptacles. Here's a map that kind of shows the flow of stormwater from the site. It's relatively flat in here, but stormwater does flow either to the northeast or the southeast. When it goes up to the northeast, it'll cross Seewee Road, follow along Limehouse Road until it gets to an unnamed tributary of the intercoastal waterway. From the southeast, it goes to, it'll flow to Maxwell Road, and then across Seewee Road again to an unnamed tributary to the intercoastal waterway or Seewee Bay. This is a wetland exhibit, and this explains why the irregular shape of the site. The wetland areas, for the most part, are carved out of the site. These areas range from 1.5 acres down to 0.03 acres. This one down here is just 3/100ths of an acre. And then the other ones are various sizes, and they're depicted by the green hash. You'll see these in a little bit different depiction here in a minute. This is a pre-development conditions, and you can see how the fingers of the wetlands come into or cross the site. Here's Seewee Road. Because the site is a long, slender site, I'm breaking it up into two different views to help you see a little bit more of the details. So again, here's the wetland, and we're going to break it down. This is zoomed in. So again, Seewee Road, this is what one of the wetlands would look like. All the circles are trees that were indicated in the initial survey of the site. And here's the remainder of the site, again, with the wetland depicted there. During construction, the first thing you'll see is a construction entrance here on Seewee Road, and silt fence will be placed along the edge of the site as well as along the edge of the wetlands. So you can see these wetlands are depicted here, And then the blue lines would be the silt fence. The pink or red indicates where where the wetland impacts will be. The wetland impacts again are a total of 0.48 acres of jurisdictional wetland impact, and those range from 0.04 acres to 0.09 acres, and they go essentially down the middle of the site. And this is the back end of the site where there's 3 additional wetland impacts. Also during construction, I wanted to point out where the sediment basins and how the stormwater flows from the site. So the site will be graded so that the stormwater will flow from the road down the roads into the sediment basins. Here's one sediment basin, here's number 2. These sediment basins will be built, and then they'll have an outfall from these 2 basins. The red line indicates an equalizing line that connects the sediment basins. So stormwater that comes in here will actually be connected to pond 2, and then you'll see in a minute it's connected to pond 3 and 4. As the roads are built and the stormwater inlets and pipes are installed, you'll see, or there will be inlet protection to minimize the amount of sediment that goes into the basins, to minimize the amount of cleanup that you have to do at the end of the project or during the project. And here's the back half of the site. Again, the red indicates the stormwater flow from pond 2 to pond 3, and it'll also be connected to pond 4. Pond 4 will also have a outfall, and then it discharges into this wetland. I'll back up real quick. These most likely will be where the stormwater will flow to the northeast, and then the flow from this pond will most likely flow to the southeast down Maxville Road. This is a detail of what the sediment basin would look like. It'll have an outlet control structure. There will be a skimmer, a near surface dewatering device. So what we do here is we require the sediment basin to take water off the near the surface of the sediment basin, where there will be less sediment. The sediment, of course, will be especially the heavier sediment will be at the bottom of the pond, the sediment basin, and so the regulations require them to take the discharge water from the surface of the sediment basin. As Shannon said, they will follow a stormwater pollution prevention plan, or a SWIP, and it'll be managed in 3 phases for this type of site. And the best management practices will be proposed, as I said, and I'm going to provide some examples of those. This is a construction entrance. Again, most likely the first indication you'll see that construction has started on the site. These are examples of the silt fence that will be used around the site and around the wetlands that are on the site. This is a example of an inlet protection with the silt fence that's surrounded around the inlet. It allows the stormwater to come up to the silt fence, slow down, and give a chance for the sediment to settle out prior to going into the inlet. And this is a detail of how that would work. Again, we're trying to minimize the amount of sediment that goes into this inlet and goes into the sediment basin. These are examples of sediment basins, a wet basin. So this is a porous baffle that is used to assist in slowing down the stormwater so more of the larger particles can settle out. This is an example of a forebay. So the stormwater would have to build up and go over the forebay, and again, it slows the stormwater down to allow it to settle. This pipe right here This is the outlet pipe, but this pipe would be the near surface dewatering or the skimmer that allows the discharge to come from the top of the sediment basin. And this is what it would look like during the stabilization phase at the end of the project. It'll be covered with vegetation or anything to stabilize the site, such as the paved roads or the homes. The proposed permanent stormwater features are wet detention ponds, along with the inlet and piping for conveying the stormwater runoff to the detention ponds, and then sheet flow from the rear of the residential lots. Post-development water quantity control. What we do here is we require the rate of stormwater runoff leaving the site not to increase the post-development conditions of the 2 and 10-year 24-hour storm event. Basically, we want to reduce the peak stormwater runoff after development. Also, the stormwater outlet points will remain the same from the site. There will be no new stormwater discharge points. And the stormwater leaves the site, enters unnamed tributaries, and then to the intercoastal or Seewee Bay. Post-development water quality. The wet detention ponds will capture the first flush from the housing and roadway areas and that will provide water quality treatment. Basically, what we do here is we capture that first flush and then allow it to discharge slowly over 24 hours to give an opportunity for the larger particles in the solids to settle out. And they carry a lot of the pollutants and contaminants that you'd find on a site like this, and that reduces the pollutant discharge. Some of the water will be treated by sheet flow from the rear of the lots prior to entering the wetlands. So here's the post-development conditions. Again, this is overall view. Here's Seewee Road. You can see pond 1, 2, 3, and 4. There's a single road running down the center of the site with the residential lots on either side. Here's a little more zoomed in. You have again, Seewee Road, the wetland. These, some of the stormwater will be treated as it flows off the back of the lots. The wet detention or the sediment basins will be converted to wet detention ponds. The outfalls will stay in the same location, and you will have the detention ponds will be connected by these equalizing lines as well. And here's the equalizing line from pond 2 that'll go to pond 3 and then to pond 4. And all along here, there will be inlets that bring the stormwater to the 4 different ponds. You'll also still have this outfall from pond 4 that will discharge to the southeast or into the wetland that would ultimately go to the southeast. This is an example of a wet detention pond. So these are the inlets from the stormwater pipes that are collecting the stormwater. They'll have riprap to protect the stormwater or the pond as the stormwater enters the pond. There will be an emergency overflow on the ponds in case the stormwater, the pond fills up, and that'll protect the integrity of the berms that surround the pond. And then here is the outfall, again with some riprap to protect the soil outside the detention pond. This is an example of the outlet control structure. So this will be a concrete structure typically. This small orifice at the bottom of the structure is what we call a water quality orifice. And that's where the stormwater will build up and stay below this main weir, but then it'll slowly discharge through this water quality orifice over the 24 hours. And that's where we get the the permanent water quality treatment during for post-development. And then as the pond fills up, it will spill out through these weirs. And then if it has to, it'll go over the emergency weir. So just in summary, this is what the site will look like post-development. And I did want to remind you where the stormwater does flow from the site. It flows from the southeast down Maxville Road to unnamed tributary to the intercoastal. And then it goes from the northeast down across Seewee Road, down Limehouse Road, and to an unnamed tributary to the intercoastal waterway. And I'm just going to turn that back over to Derek for next steps.
Okay, thank you, George. Thank you, Shannon, and also thank you, Jill. I know that was a lot of information, but thank you for allowing us to get through it before starting with questions. I'm going to walk us through the next steps in our permitting processes and how you can participate by providing comments. South Carolina Department of Environmental Services, or SCDS, operates on a 20 business day review clock. It is important to note that this clock resets with each new submittal. Once a decision is made, written notification will be provided, but only if it's requested in writing. So if you'd like to receive a formal decision letter, please be sure to submit that request. Now we'll have some facilitated questions shortly, but please hold your questions until that time so we can ensure everyone has a chance to be heard and we stay on track. We'll talk about how you can provide comments. Written comments will be accepted until October 9th, 2025. You can submit your comments in several ways. By speaking tonight during a public hearing where your comments will be recorded, by emailing George Cox at george.cox@des.sc.gov, by mailing your comments to George Cox at the South Carolina Department of Environmental Services Bureau of Water, Coastal Stormwater Permitting, located at 1362 McMillan Avenue, Suite 300. That's in North Charleston, South Carolina. The zip is 29405. Or you can use our online e-permitting portal called Seewee Landing. And for those who prefer to submit comments online, here's a quick walkthrough of how to do that using the Seewee Landing portal. First, go to the Seewee Landing portal and click on the appropriate link to begin your search. You'll want to search for the project by name or permit number. Once you locate the project, you want to click, let me go back. You want to click on the project title to open the details page. Make sure you selected the correct site name to ensure your comment is submitted to the right project. Next, select the option labeled View Submit Comments to open the comment submission form. And finally, click Add Comment to enter your feedback. Be sure to include your name and contact information if you would like to have a response or a follow-up. Okay. Now, Christy, again, I'm going to turn over to you. We're going to look for questions in the audience. We'll unmute you once you raise your hand. So we'll begin with our question and our response. So we're going to recognize you one at a time.
Yeah, thanks so much, Derek, and thanks to all of you who've joined us tonight. Again, if you would like to ask a question, we want to make sure that you're able to raise your hand, and that'll help us be able to unmute your microphone and be able to start the conversation. And I see a hand coming up from Taylor Allred. Taylor, can you unmute?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you all. I appreciate the presentation. I was wondering if in your evaluation of this application, you would be looking at potential future environmental conditions over time and what kind of time period you would be looking at with potentially higher sea levels and how that could drive greater storm surge events.
Thanks for that
So
question.
the scope of our review deals for NPDS construction. It deals with the proposed project before us now. Any future phases would be under a separate application. The current regulatory standards for stormwater in the state do not contain anything related to sea level rise. So that is not something within our reviewing authority.
Okay, thank you for that. The next question we have is from a phone number ending in 5506. Oh, wait, I think did we lose that? If you would like to go ahead and unmute your microphone, and I check with our tech support system here.
Looks like they did lower their hand, but they are still able to unmute.
Yeah.
Pressing *6.
So if you have that question from the phone ending in 5506, you can press *6 to unmute your phone and ask that question. Maybe let's go back to Grace Gasper, and then we'll try to go back to the phone number as well. Grace Gasper, you can unmute now. To unmute, you can look for a microphone icon that's, if you're joining by computer, in the upper right-hand portion of your screen. Catherine Yon is with our comms and tech team. Catherine, do you have some other tips that might help people be able to unmute?
I don't. Grace, if you don't have a speaker on your computer, you can dial in. Do we have a slide with that number? We may not. But your microphone is unlocked as well as the phone number ending in 5506. Both of you should be able to unmute your mics and ask your questions.
Catherine, you did make a good note of people can call in to a phone number for access to this. So Grace, if you're having a challenge, that phone number is 323-433-2299. That's 323-433-2299. And then we have an access code that's 228-082-876#. That's also on our webpage for this project. As we wait to hear from Grace and that phone number, I see a hand from Jay Reigert. Jay, let's see if we can make it where you can unmute there.
Yeah, I've got you. Can you hear me?
We've got you, Jay. Thanks.
Okay. Was there any review of what happens on the less frequent storms, the 25, 50, 100-year storms from this site?
Shannon, is that a question you can help with as well?
I think George is unmuted to talk about what's in the report.
Okay.
Yeah, what they have submitted is the 2 and the 10-year storm and the 100-year storm. The 100-year storm is, as I mentioned, mainly to protect the stormwater infrastructure.
And what's the water surface elevation look like on this site on a 100-year storm? Compared to the houses,
off the top of my head.
Yeah.
That is something that we will review and make sure that it doesn't what we look for is to make sure it doesn't overtop the stormwater structure to maintain the integrity of the stormwater structure.
And Jay, the report and plans can be made available digitally to you should you want them
Okay, I'll make a
to review.
request. Thank you.
Yeah, and I did want to point out that they are available in our office if somebody needed to stop by and look at them as well, the hard copy.
Do we have some other questions from anyone who's joining us tonight? I'm going to go to this slide as well and really encourage everybody to use that link to do the sign-in sheet tonight. It'll help us be able to have some follow-up information available for you, especially as any decisions are being made, and can also help us with being able to talk to you tonight. I know we have more people who are online attending than have done our form. With that, Catherine, I see we have a hand raised for a phone number ending in 7535. So again, if they can use, is that *6 to unmute?
Yes. It may also need, there we go.
Yes, are you able to hear me?
Yes. Are you able to turn your computer speakers down a little bit? We're getting a little bit of feedback. Just want to make sure we can hear your question.
Yeah, so first, I was not able to unmute. I don't believe I was given permission to unmute, and I don't know if anyone else will have that problem tonight, but there does seem to be some technical difficulty with unmuting. I was curious if you could please put the slide back up that showed the path the stormwater drainages were supposed to take leaving the site. I just had a question about that.
Is this the correct slide for you, ma'am?
I'm just right now we're just seeing all of the, let's see.
This one has the blue arrows coming off of the site. George, is that the right slide for a reference?
Yes, Christy, that should be the correct one.
Okay, thank you.
And did you have questions about the slide?
I did. So from Seewee Landing and Seewee Road and Maxville Road, can you elaborate on the path to Seewee Bay, or do you have a slide that shows that a little bit better?
Yeah, so it goes to the Intercoastal Waterway, which is connected to Seewee Bay. So that's the intent of the slide. It probably would have been better if I would have just said that it goes to the Intercoastal Waterway, but I wanted to point out that all that water is still, it's all connected in this area.
So I know that I don't know if there is anyone from, Limehouse or Maxville Road on the call tonight, but those are already areas where there are, flooding issues, and so more stormwater, and those are already developed areas where the natural, drainage patterns have already been significantly disturbed. So I just question how that's even physically possible.
When we review these, as I said on the post-development water quantity, the stormwater, and they use models to show this, the stormwater is collected in the detention ponds, and it allows that peak flow to be reduced as it leaves the site. So there is the same amount of stormwater falling on the site pre and post development, but through the detention ponds, it allows that peak to be shaved off so that it is equal to or less than the pre-development conditions. So the design is that it should not cause an increase in problems, and again, by design, it should show that the problem is lessened. And that's what the regulations are designed to help with.
Okay, thank you. And I know you had showed the road down the middle of the project site. And at those sites where there are wetlands, will there be culverts under that road to allow the water to continue flowing freely through those wetlands?
Yes. Christy, if you could go up a few slides.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Here you can see the culvert, the purple lines that cross the road at the wetlands. So they have proposed to put culverts so that those wetlands will remain connected northeast and southeast.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for those questions. And George, I hope I'm staying on the right slides for you. Thanks for that guidance.
That's perfect, Christy.
Okay. Next, I see a hand from Ty Venable. Ty, I believe you should be able to unmute your mic.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we've got you, Ty.
Oh, great. All right. I'm 5506 too, by the way. So anyway,
Well, great.
I've looked at this property before it was sold, and even after. There's properties in front of this property between it and Seewee Road. And actually, there's several. And these properties already have mining operations with ponds on them. And it's at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 additional ponds in between this property and Seewee Road. And once it crosses Seewee Road, there's 3 more ponds that go down to one culvert leading into the waterway. There's no way this water can all go through there without affecting these ponds and getting it right straight into the waterway. There's no way they can control it from going in there. I don't see how they could keep it. I mean, it's probably, 500-600 feet from where they're talking about the houses. Do y'all y'all don't show these ponds on there?
Christy, if you'll go up to probably the first slide with the satellite view.
Hold on one second while I get to that. See if we can.
I mean, y'all's ponds are going to go right into the other ponds. I mean, it's 113 acres on 2 parcels.
Yeah.
So
this does show those ponds that you were talking about. Is that correct?
Well, that's not all of them, but yes. Yeah, there's 1, 2, 3 on the Rector's property. There's 2 more past those on the Farrell property and the West Dyke property. And those are in between where you're saying the water is going to run off between there and Maxville Road, going to Seewee Road. And if you cross Seewee Road, you'll see the other ponds that you have your arrow on running straight down into the waterway. Yes, those. And the only way for them to get out is one pipe at the end of the player's property and a dike.
At the end of Limehouse.
At the end of Limehouse Road. I live on Limehouse Road. So all these ponds are in between where you're saying you're going to have runoff. And how's it going to go around all these ponds and end up going where you say it's going when they just cleared 65 acres clear cut right across the street from where y'all pretty much talking about developing? It's not manageable. I can't see it.
Our regulations require controlling the rate of flow as stormwater leaves the site. And oftentimes mines don't necessarily have much of a discharge because the sand is mined out and it's just left as a wet pond essentially. But if you have information regarding drainage flow paths on these sites that you're concerned about, and the related drainage infrastructure, we can certainly look into it. But the regulatory requirements we have deal with controlling the rate of flow when it leaves the site to maintain the pre-development flow rate.
Well, how is it going to go around these ponds that are below the level of what are y'all talking about discharging? That water's going to seep through there and go to these ponds, and these ponds don't have a discharge. So now you have a whole nother problem. All those contaminants are going to stay within these ponds on that property before it can even get across to get. I mean, I don't see how y'all can run it down to the waterway without crossing all these properties that already have water facilities on them with very little outflow to the waterway to begin with.
Well, we can look at the outfall flow path if you have information on that shows that all of the runoff from these sites goes through those pond systems or the mine systems, then please share it and we can take a look at it.
Well, hasn't anybody come and looked at these ponds on the right-hand side of Seewee Road right on Limehouse Road? I mean, they're right on your slide right here. I mean, you have to know where it goes. I mean, if y'all going to do the road up there and run it that way, you have to already know where that water is going to go. I would think you would have to know that.
Well, the engineer puts together an engineering report that talks about the drainage flow path from the site, and we glean information from that. And if there's something that we need to go out and take a specific look at in the field, then we do that.
Well, I would hope so. Because I mean, there's no way forward to go without going through those ponds and getting to the waterway. It's just.
And so
right
that's by
across the street
field
from our house.
observation that you've seen that?
Yes.
Okay.
The dike already blew out twice with heavy rains. It used to have two big pipes under it, culverts. Now it only has one. The last fire truck that went across it sunk on it, almost turned over. They had to come and crane it out because there's no way to cross it. And now, all this other water is going to come from there. And there's already a clear cut right across Seawee Road from there, 65 acres that developers clear cut. They always have a plan, but where's it going? It's all going to have to go to the same ponds to go out to the waterway.
And
No
the dike you're mentioning is located generally where?
Right at the end of Limehouse Road.
Okay.
If y'all would look at it, you would, I mean, all those little ponds that you see there on Joe Rice's property run right to the same one, and it all goes out of one pipe. And it's busted several times already. And you can call it to the, Donald Player that lives there has had to replace it and repair it. So anybody on Limehouse Road could tell you. So I really think you need to do a little more groundwork and physical inspection of this area before they approve more groundwater running off. I appreciate y'all doing what you can, but I mean, I just think it's ridiculous to try to think that water is not going to run through these same places. It's the lowest areas, and some water is going to go to it. I mean, there's no way you can't change it unless you build it up and go over it somehow with a pump. But anyway, you need to look at.
We're not saying that the downstream flow path is. I mean, it will stay the same. Like the improvements are only on site. Now, where the specifics of that downstream flow path go, we can take a closer look at it, but our regulations require that the rate of flow leaving the site does not change in post-development conditions. It remains at pre-development levels to allow for the downstream infrastructure being able to accommodate that same rate of flow.
Are the ponds lined? Are they going to keep any water from seeping out from under them, going to a lower spot? I mean, water goes where the lowest level is. I mean, I don't know how you can keep it a higher pond from a lower area, less than, probably 5, 6, 700 feet away. I can't, I don't understand that. How they can engineer the water just to stay on that property when all the other water from all over comes down this way. And when it rains, all that water, these ponds fill and they flow very strongly and they go right through one pipe. I mean, it's crazy.
Well, as far as wet ponds, there's a static water surface elevation that's usually controlled partly due to the seasonal high water table. And then the elevation of that pond is controlled by an outlet structure. So the part of the pond that's being released is the part that fills up during a rain event. Anything below that is likely more so controlled by static water surface elevation that is there anyway. But we can look at the specific designs on this site and where the water table may be located. So thank you for your comments.
Thank you, because it has a tidal flow in and out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Venable. Again, I want to make sure we check in. We have some more time before we begin our public hearing. I want to make sure we get as many questions as we can. I know I'm trying to do an email follow-up with Ms. Gasper, who was trying to unmute previously, and I believe another of our staff members is trying to help someone who was also having some challenges with the technology tonight. What we're doing is we're unmuting your mic as you raise your hand. So if you can raise your hand and show that you have a question, we can do that. We do that to just try to minimize some background noise, make sure that we're kind of having one person speak at a time. So we can use this tool as effectively as we can. So I want to encourage anyone who has a question, please raise your hand now. We'll make sure that we work to get your question asked to the full group. And I'm going to finish this email on the side with Ms. Gasper. Derek, I'm not seeing any more hands being raised right this second. Maybe we can go back to, y'all bear with me as I flip through the slides here. I do want to make sure that I reiterate what Derek's already shared tonight. This is one way that you can connect with our team and provide comments or ask questions. So please feel free to reach out to us even beyond tonight if you have additional questions or comments. Again, the public comment period for this project is open until October 9th, and we have ways that you can reach out to us by email, by US mail, and through that e-permitting system, which Derek walked through some of those slides of how to use that to provide a comment for us as well. So again, if you go to our webpage of des.sc.gov, there's multiple ways you can search here, or you can go here, or you can go here to try to find where our public notices are, and then search for those relative to this specific project for Seewee Landing. And we want to make sure that, again, our team is here to answer questions and get feedback from you as well.
Christy, I do want to mention the notification that was sent out today verifying that we were still having the virtual meeting. That email contains direct links to this site for commenting for the Seewee Landing project. So it will take you right to the record where you can submit a comment.
That's a great point, Shannon, too. I didn't have the email in front of me. I had the PowerPoint slides. But another thing I'll say is we did set up a web page specific to this project that we're going to have I think we already have the PowerPoint slides presented there, and we're going to add a recording of this meeting as a reference. I see a hand from Taylor Allred again. Let's see, Taylor, let's see, you can unmute.
Yeah, thank you. How high is this project above sea level currently?
Pulling up plans with elevations. Looks like we're at 15, elevation 15 and 16.
Thank you.
15 to 18. Let's see. So I'd say about 15 to 18 feet. Actually, maybe a little bit higher than that. I'm just going through the existing conditions plans. So yeah, 15 to 20.
Okay, do we have any more questions? Okay. Well, let's take a 5-minute break and we will start our public hearing in roughly 5 minutes. So at 7:03 p.m., we will begin our public hearing for the Seewee Landing project.
Can I throw
Go
in
ahead.
there as we take that break, Derek?
Mhm.
Again, if anyone wants to make a comment tonight, you don't have to use the registration form to make that comment, but it is helpful. I see several of y'all have already done that. And so in real time, we can be looking at that and make sure you're being called on. So I appreciate you using that QR code that's on the screen and being able to let us know if you would like to make a comment tonight. That would be very helpful. Thank you.
Good evening. The time is now 7:03 p.m., Monday, the 29th of September, 2025, and this public hearing is called to order. For the record, this public hearing is being held virtually by the South Carolina Department of Environmental Services to share information and accept verbal comments on the proposed issuance of a National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, NPDES, general permit for stormwater discharges from construction activities, SCR 100,000, and associated with coastal zone consistency determination. The proposed development location is 6578 Seewee Road, Allendale, South Carolina, 29429 in Charleston County. My name is Derek Stanley, and I am the Public Participation Coordinator for the South Carolina Department of Environmental Services Bureau of Water. And tonight, I will be serving as your public hearing officer. It is a pleasure to be with you. Providing opportunities for public involvement in our processes is a top priority for South Carolina Department of Environmental Services, and we thank you for taking the time to join us. Before I go over how we will proceed, there are a few items that I would like to address. Next, if you have not done so already, I encourage each of you to use the QR code on your screen to sign the attendance sheet to ensure that we have a complete record of all attendees here tonight. We have asked for your mail-in or email addresses on the sign-in sheet so that we can notify you of any future information regarding Seewee Landing. It also has a way for you to share if you would like to be called on to share a comment for the record. Once again, we have given you how to provide comments, but the South Carolina Department of Environmental Services staff gave a presentation on the proposed permit issuance process during the public meeting held at 6 p.m. This presentation will be made available before the end of the public comment period on the Seewee Landing webpage at des.sc.gov/Seewee Landing. We will now move on to the order in which we will proceed with this hearing. A brief statement about the proposed construction will be read for the record by George Cox. For this hearing to move forward in an efficient and timely manner, we will proceed as follows. I will first call on those who have indicated that you would like to make an oral comment during registration. If you have decided that you no longer wish to speak when you are called on, you may decline at that time. After hearing from everyone who registered to make a comment, those who did not pre-register to comment will be given the opportunity to speak. I will ask you to raise your hand at the time and call on everyone in order. Your comments are important to us and may provide our staff with additional considerations when making a final permit decision. A final decision on a permit reissuance has not yet been made and will not be made during this public hearing. SCDES welcomes and encourages your comments through the end of the public comment period on October 9, 2025. As we proceed, I will ask that you follow 4 guidelines. First, there will be no questions or answers given during or after a comment. Second, to accommodate everyone, each commenter will have an equal opportunity to speak one time only for 3 minutes per individual or 5 minutes for elected officials and those speaking on behalf of an organized group. There will be a general reminder of this sound to conclude your comments as you reach your time limit. If you are not able to complete your comments within the allotted time, we encourage you to submit them in writing before the end of the public comment period. Third, please be respectful towards anyone speaking here tonight. Fourth, please do not interrupt or ask other participants to respond during or after your comments. Should any comments or action begin to move away from the intent of this hearing, I may ask the speaker to limit their statements. I will now call on George Cox to read a brief statement about the NPDES general permit for stormwater discharges from construction activities for the proposed Seewee Landing development. George.
All right, the proposed project consists of 65 single-family residential lots. It will also include the roadway, utility, stormwater management infrastructure, The site is 48.9 acres with 39.6 acres of proposed land disturbance, and the wetland impacts will be 0.48 acres of jurisdictional wetland impacts. Back to you, Darren.
Thank you, George. As we transition to the comment portion of this public hearing, I would like to reiterate that SCDES staff are here to listen to your comments. Answers or responses to questions will not be provided tonight. All comments made during this hearing are being recorded. Tonight is one of several ways that you may submit comments. Written comments can be shared via e-permitting, email, and mailed through the end of the public comment period on October 9, 2025. I will now have Christy Ellenberg call on those persons who indicated during registration that they would like to make a comment. As she calls your name, please unmute your microphone and state and spell your name for the record before you begin speaking. Christy?
Thank you, Derek. I just had a little adjustment in my screen there. Hang on one second. Let me get back to that list. I believe the first one we had was Anna Kimmelblatt. Anna, we have a timer that's at the top of the screen. Can
Okay.
you unmute your mic?
Can you hear me?
And if you can start with your name and spell it for us, that would be helpful. Thank you so much.
Sure. My name is Anna Kimmelblatt, ANNA, last name KIMELBLATT. I serve as the Communities and Transportation Program Director for the South Carolina Coastal Conservation League. The Coastal Conservation League maintains serious concerns about this project's alignment with South Carolina's Coastal Zone Management Program. The proposed Seewee Landing development seeks permits to disturb 39.6 acres for the construction of 65 single-family homes in Ondah. This high-density development conflicts with South Carolina's established coastal protection policies and should be denied based on coastal zone consistency requirements. The Coastal Zone Management Program explicitly discourages high-density development in sensitive coastal areas and encourages development in already developed areas, which this area is not. It prioritizes protection of coastal water quality, preservation of natural drainage patterns, low-impact development that maintains ecosystem functions, and buffer zones around wetlands and waterways. The proposed Seewee Landing development directly conflicts with each of these priorities. Cramming 65 homes onto 40 acres is certainly not low impact and will permanently disrupt the site's natural hydrology through extensive clearing and the creation of impervious surfaces. Natural drainage patterns provide important flood protection and water filtration services that can't be recreated through any feat of engineering. This project will result in contaminated runoff flowing directly into the intracoastal waterway and beyond. Furthermore, all 65 homes will be on septic systems. Septic at this scale in sensitive coastal areas with extensive wetlands represents exactly the type of development that South Carolina's Coastal Zone Management Program was designed to prevent. These septic systems, with the traditional lack of maintenance and assessment, will fail and will inevitably leach pollutants into Ondah's waterways, just as we have seen time and time again. Based on these significant conflicts with established state coastal policy, we urge DES to find this project inconsistent with coastal zone consistency requirements, deny the requested permits as they conflict with state coastal protection policies, uphold the Coastal Zone Management Program by protecting coastal water quality and the naturally functioning floodplain, and prevent the destruction of natural drainage patterns that provide important ecosystem services in terms of storage and filtration. The Seewee Landing development represents exactly the type of inappropriate coastal development that the Coastal Zone Management Program was established to prevent. We respectfully request that DES deny the permits for this development and protect our coastal resources by enforcing our state's established coastal protection policies. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Next, Christy.
Thank you. Next, we have Taylor Allred. Taylor, I believe you can unmute. And I'm going to get the
All right,
timer
good.
reset. Hang on one second. You might be faster than me and the timer, right? So, we got new tools there, Taylor. It's kind of fun. Here we go. I'm going to give you, again, if you can start with your name. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Taylor Allred, spelled Taylor, last name Allred. I serve as the Energy and Climate Program Director at the Coastal Conservation League, but today I'm just speaking as an individual and longtime local resident of the area. That being said, I concur with the concerns voiced very well by my colleague Anna just now. But kind of on a personal note, I grew up in Mount Pleasant. I've had family in living off of Seewee Road and the Remain Retreat development. First two houses on Come About Way as you get into the neighborhood since well before Hurricane Hugo. I still got an aunt and uncle there. My grandparents who lived there sadly passed a while back. But I grew up fishing in the Cape Remain National Wildlife Refuge. I still do to this day. In fact, I'm proud to say week before last, on my 40th birthday, I caught a 40-inch redfish in the refuge. I'd share a picture if I had the capability on here. But I'm concerned that, continued overdevelopment, like I've seen in, my hometown of Mount Pleasant my whole life, is just going to continue to negatively impact the environment and quality of life. And, I go down Seewee Road a good bit. I know there's already tons of sand on there from the sand mining. I'm worried what increased water flow is going to do with moving sediment in large amounts. I'm concerned about the septic systems, leaching pollutants that, do everything you may are going to wind up in the waterway. And, we can't have this just build, continue to harm our wildlife, aquatic and terrestrial. And, I'm hopeful that y'all will heed the recommendations put so eloquently by my colleague Anna and find that this is inconsistent with state regulations, including the coastal zone consistency requirements. This high density development is not what we need in this area. It would be a problem for existing residents, for the habitat surrounding this area, for the things that make this a special place to live, work, and play. I appreciate y'all's consideration.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Allred. Next, Christy.
Next, we have Grace Gasper. I'm hoping Ms. Gasper is able to unmute. Grace, can you try to unmute your microphone? Again, Grace, I believe you have the ability to unmute from what we can see on our dashboard side here. Derek, it might be good to go back to that slide of the different ways to give a comment that we saw earlier. Ms. Gasper, if you are able to unmute, we would love to have your comment. If not, we want to remind you there are different ways to provide comment beyond tonight through mail, email, and the e-permitting portal that was demonstrated. Looks like, hang on, we
There's
have
a
a hand
hand
up.
raised. Do you think
Right.
that might be Grace calling you?
Maybe that is. Grace, hang on one second. If you can hit, is it *6 to unmute, Catherine?
Yes, it is.
Grace, if that was you, we would love to have you unmute your phone. You may have to hit *6 on your phone to unmute, and that should activate your mic.
Yes, are you able to hear me?
There you are, yes. Wonderful.
Yay. Thank you so much. My name is Grace Gasper, GraceGasper, and I speak tonight on behalf of Friends of Coastal South Carolina and our members and supporters in the Allendale area who have concerns over this project. I will be brief because we look forward to submitting more detailed written comments, but I do echo the last two comments in terms of our concern with this project being inconsistent with coastal zone management guidelines, including, already flood-prone areas. We see little hope that this improves or maintains water quality. And this is already a very an area vulnerable to storms to start with. The density of the development is very concerning to us, and the effects that more land disturbance will have on the surrounding communities and the surrounding roads, and what safety will be like in a storm event. We're concerned about the drainage into the Intracoastal Waterway and Seewee Bay as its potential impacts to Cape Remain National Wildlife Refuge. Certainly there is a lot of development already between this site and the Intracoastal Waterway. There are an awful lot of pollutants that can be picked up, adding more water to that path. I would like to mention that we were concerned that this hearing was being held virtually because a lot of residents here in the rural area may not have access to the technology to join virtual meetings. I spend half my day every day on virtual meetings and still couldn't get unmuted. So it can be challenging, and we feel like this project can have a really profound impact on the surrounding area, and would really, we understand you all are dealing with so much with storm, an potentially approaching storm, and that it's not easy to renotice projects and all, but we would really strongly urge a rescheduled public meeting so all the residents in this area have an opportunity to give their input. And the only other thing I'd like to mention tonight is that we were concerned that on this and also the last public hearing, DES was not providing the full site plans with the project material on the website. And I know in the past we've been able to get those, but it is very difficult without those documents to be able to review the plan and make meaningful comments. And we hope that those documents will be shared. I know I've had to FOIA the documents from the last hearing in Allendale and still haven't received those. So we would be very grateful if you could, share the full site plans before the end of the comment period. And thank you for the opportunity to comment tonight, and we appreciate the DES staff, taking the time to at least give us this virtual opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Gasper. Thank you for your comments. Who we have next, Christy?
Next, we have Kenzie Poole. Kenzie, if you're able to unmute, there you are.
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Kenzie Poole, and I'm a staff attorney at the South Carolina Environmental Law Project. Our mission is to use legal expertise to protect land, water, and communities throughout South Carolina. Tonight, I am here to join the many residents and community members affected by this project in expressing our concerns with the proposed Seewee Landing residential development. Before getting into project-specific concerns, it is first important to note that the Onondaga community is combating overdevelopment from many proposed and/or permitted high-density residential developments that threaten to pollute and exacerbate flooding in the area. This fact is extremely relevant to tonight's discussion because it helps show why the community truly needs DES to consider the broader cumulative impacts of Seewee Landing and similar projects in the Onondaga area. The Seewee Landing development specifically constitutes unwise coastal development and is inconsistent with the Coastal Zone Management Program policies. If permitted, it would disturb 39.6 acres for construction of 65 single-family homes and channel contaminated runoff directly into the Intracoastal Waterway. High-density development in coastal areas, especially in close proximity to pristine, ecologically rich areas such as Cape Remain National Wildlife Refuge, is explicitly discouraged by state policy. Further, while there may only be 0.48 direct jurisdictional wetland impacts, indirect impacts can be expected to degrade connected wetland and watershed hydrology, altering water flow, fragmenting habitats, and worsening water quality in the area. Clear cutting and the wide use of impervious surfaces further destroy the land's natural hydrology. These actions ultimately strip the area of natural flood protection in an area that's already prone to flooding and water filtration infrastructure that the area desperately needs. This is made even more concerning by the fact that all 65 homes will be on septic systems. Though this hearing concerns a stormwater permit, DES must consider the cumulative impacts of the overall development plan, including the impacts that failing septic systems would also have on water quality. Time and time again, South Carolina communities are witnessing the goals of the CZMP be undermined or abandoned by the countering weight of development and economic pressure, especially in rural places like Ondaw. Although the CZMP charges DES to evaluate projects with a rational balance between development and protecting and conserving coastal land and water areas of significant resource value, yet another high-density septic-reliant development jeopardizes the well-being of the residents of Ondaw and the surrounding environment. Therefore, we request that DES deny this permit application as it currently stands. As the members of this community present their concerns tonight, I know we've heard from several that have provided really good comments. Please listen to the neighbors and residents affected by the decision you make on this permit, because they are the people that will ultimately live with the impacts of the development. Again, we thank you for your time tonight and your work on this, and we are open to the opportunity to discuss our concerns with you further and provide written comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. We have anyone else, Christy?
We have one more, Derek, that pre-registered, and then I see a hand up. So we'll go to Jay Reichert next, and then Ty Venable, I see your hand after that. So we'll go to Jay Reichert. Jay, are you able to unmute?
I am. So I'd like to concur with Anna and the other statements made earlier. They were well prepared and spoke well to this this development. Quite simply put, 65 septic tanks on 40-something acres is unreasonable, and it's just too much of a risk. I know this hearing is mainly about stormwater management, but ultimately these septic tanks will join the stormwater and pollute our area, pollute the waterway, and ultimately Bulls Bay. And like I said, I know that this hearing is about stormwater, but the Department of Environmental Services is supposed to look at the whole project and our environment. That's ultimately what your goal is. I know you're only looking at the letter of the stormwater management, but this goes way beyond that. And I agree that it's inconsistent with the Coastal Zone Management Program, and therefore I urge you to deny this permit. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate your comments. Okay, Christy? Anyone else?
Next we'll be going to Ty Venable, who has his hand raised, and then I'll also add for anyone else who's joined us who has decided to make a comment but maybe did not register indicating that they wanted to make a comment tonight. Please raise your hand and we'll come to you in the order which you raise your hand. So Ty, I believe you can unmute your mic and may already have gotten there.
Okay, hello, I'm Ann Carswell, ANNCARSWELL. Ty and I are sharing a computer right now, so I didn't have my own name on there. But I just wanted to point out the irony that this meeting for stormwater has been as evidenced by where this meeting, instead of at the meeting down the road where we had the last one, we can't take any more water in our ditches. They overflow as it is. I live on Limehouse Road. Our water is coming up higher and higher with every high tide. And with a storm or with even heavy rain, we're already inundated with stormwater. Please do not allow any more impervious surfaces to just allow more and more runoff, because we can't take it. But thank you for asking for our opinions.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else? I think that concludes everyone who signed up to make a comment. We will now move
Actually,
on to,
let me make sure we have a phone number ending in 7535. I believe that was from our earlier comment we received,
okay.
but just wanted to check. Sorry about that, Derek.
It's okay. I'll make sure everyone is heard.
Yep. Believe that's from earlier. Thank you.
Okay. Well, if you had not had the opportunity to comment and would like to do so now, please raise your hand and that so I can call on you. And please remember to unmute, state, and spell your name for the record. As with the previous commenters, you'll be given 3 minutes to state your comments unless you are representing a group, and then you will be given 5 minutes. So is anyone here that hasn't raised their hand previously and would like to make a comment? Please raise your hand now. Okay. I'm gonna ask once more. If any other attendees would like to make a comment, please raise your hand. Okay. Well, I don't see anyone, and Christy, you don't see anyone, do you? Unless I'm missing someone.
No, Derek, I don't see any more requests to make a comment tonight.
Okay. Well, that concludes everyone who indicated they would like to make a comment. Since there are no other attendees who would like to make a comment, we will now conclude this portion of the public hearing. So on behalf of the South Carolina Department of Environmental Services, I would like to thank everyone for joining us virtually tonight and giving us your comments. Please note once again that written comments may be submitted to SCDES by mail, email, and via the e-permitting portal through October 9th, 2025. The comments are still up there. All written comments received on or before this date will be considered in the South Carolina Department of Environmental Services decision-making process. Please note once again, written comments will be accepted through October 9th, 2025, and should be submitted to George Cox, SCDES, Bureau of Water, Coastal Stormwater Permitting, 1362 McMillan Avenue, Suite 300, and that is in North Charleston, South Carolina, 29405. Or you can email George Cox at george.cox@des.sc.gov. Following the close of the public comment period, SCDES will review and consider all comments received, along with the application and other information to finalize the NPDES general permit. Once a final decision is made, SCDES will issue a notice of department decision to the permittee and individuals who have provided comments to the department. We encourage you to visit des.sc.gov and e-permitting for access to information and documents pertaining to the proposed permit reissuance. The webpage address is https://des.sc.gov/community/community engagement/environmental public notices. On behalf of the South Carolina Department of Environmental Services, I would like to again thank you for your attendance and comments tonight. As usual, public safety is one of our main priorities. We want you to stay safe and stay informed. The time is now 7:33 p.m. and our public hearing is now adjourned. Thank you each and every one. Thank you DES staff. Thank you attendees and commenters. I want y'all to have a great evening.